Oh, a finish from Leacher here to the box. Hotter, will he go for goal? Goes for goal. Here it is!
Might drop here, Ziggins! Off the line by Ring! And in!
Welcome to the Bees Analytica podcast. Hello and welcome to the 15th episode of the Bees Analytica podcast. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the one and only Sam Saunders this week for an exclusive interview here on the podcast. We'll be chatting a bit through his career, his transition into coaching and the B team model here at Brentford. Hi Sam, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
We'll start off then with his initial career, obviously through the academy system at both Charlton and Fulham, and then later obviously Welling. What sort of was it like back in the day? We've heard from Charlie McDonald before about it was a lot different to nowadays. What's your sort of experience with it?
Yeah, obviously, as a young lad, 10 years old, when you get asked to go to Charlton, I actually went on a soccer school about 9-10 years old, like a local. At the soccer school, when knowing half terms and stuff like that, and I was doing it, and without even realising or paying much attention to it, they was videoing me. And obviously, back then, videos at the side of a pitch and cameras and that was very rare. And then, at the end of the tour, obviously won the player of the week and all that kind of stuff. And then they tried, and then it was like, we want to sign you at 9-10 year old, and it was all a bit surreal to me, really. I just wanted to play football. I didn't really care about playing for a professional club and so forth. But it was just, I spoke to my dad and he was like, "This, all it's going to mean is you're just going to do more training," which for me, that's all I wanted to do anyway. So, yeah, signed for Charlton. Sparrows Lane when I was 10, 27 years ago now, which is crazy. And yeah, just was there for 5 years. We had a really good age group. Jermaine Defoe was in my age group. He went on to do really well, as you know, and a few others that went on to have a career. But yeah, we was very competitive at that age group, and at about 15 years old, with no real signs, to be honest, that I got released, which was obviously very difficult to take, and the rejection at any age is never good, and so particularly when all you ever wanted to be was a footballer, and at 15, before you go into from leaving school to, because I was young, I was a young 15-year-old. I was at August 29th, so like say 2 days into that year. So that, and the fact that I was physically undeveloped, and obviously a late developer as well. It was a big cocktail of reasons why I wasn't maybe what they felt that I wasn't quite ready. But it was a short-sighted call, in my opinion. They chose lads that were potentially a year older than me and a year or two older than me when it comes to development and puberty and all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. So yeah, they was probably stronger than me right at that moment, and maybe slightly quicker, but it was one of the ones where those boys had done their growing. Some of them had full beards and they were shaving and stuff like that, and it was just it was a very short-sighted call. What I felt, it wasn't down to a football ability, and I think at the time as well, we look back now, and I wish I was going up through the academies when we had the Man Cities and the Pep Guardiolas, the Barcelonas and stuff, because those are the pinnacles, and that's how people wanted to play. You didn't have to be 6 foot tall. You didn't have to be. Do you know what I mean? You didn't have to. Yeah, it wasn't purely on size. When this was happening, it was going through the Invincibles era. So it was the Vieiras and the Petites in the centre of the midfield, really big physical guys, and that's what everyone thought that the model had to be. And yeah, don't get me wrong, the Premiership is full of athletically big players, but the technical players, particularly at that age, what I see, got overlooked, and that was a shame because that was where I was particularly strong at. And obviously, yeah, I wasn't ever going to be a 6'2" box to box in 9 seconds player, but I had technical attributes that I felt that could have been nurtured in a better manner. So yeah, anyway, so to go from that, I got released, and they said, good news. We've got some good news and bad news. The bad news is we're not signing. Good news is that Fulham want to take you on trial. You played against them the other week, and I was impressed. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. which wasn't ideal because I was a South London lad. Going to Fulham over in West London was a bit of a slap for my dad, and it was. I turned down QPR when I was younger. QPR bending over backwards to try and sign me in. I didn't want to go over there because it was just too far.
Yeah. What sort of divisions were they in at the time? Were Charlton's the Premiership side at the time? To Fulham?
So there was both. There was both in the Prem.
Okay.
There was both in the Prem. I think Fulham had just gone into the Premier League. The money had just gone in there and stuff. So there was both in the Premier League. At Fulham, so I went over to Fulham and first training session. I got there and there was 60 kids at this training session. I was thinking, what is going on here? Like, they said they want me on trial, but you're going to do well to even know my name. Never mind seeing me play with all these kids. And week on week, it went down less and less and less. And it was a real, like, week on week, it got down to about 15 lads, and we got back down to about 10. And during that, I was playing for them. I seemed to be scoring and doing well, and I was enjoying it. I was like, actually, I could see myself playing here. Got to the stage where, at that time in youth development football, you could only sign 18 players over the 3-year span.
Okay.
And the first year of this ban, I was in the second year bracket. The first year they'd signed 12 in the first lot, so it only left them with 6 spaces for the next 2 years, which they didn't tell me prior. And they said that they'd already promised 3 lads a deal. So it's one of the ones where they've called me in for a trial when realistically I was never, ever going to get anything. But they said, there's a release trials at Bishop Abbey, or was it Leadership, one of the two, I can't remember now. Go and do well there, and you'll force our hand. We'll have to sign you. Hey, we lost 4-3, I scored 3. Thinking, oh, they're going to sign me now. It's just one of the things that's just going to happen. And it's expecting, like, lots of scouts from all over the Football League come and watch you, and you get... Even as Charlton scout at the time said to me, Dad, we made a mistake there and boxing, but I'll come off there thinking, yeah, finally I'm going to get a break. Got 2 weeks later, or a week later, you get a letter through the post of what clubs are interested. There was a few clubs, Football League, League 2, League 1. Nothing really that I really fancied. A lot of it was majority of it was all moving away from home for clubs that I didn't really see the benefit. Fulham didn't sign me after the back of that, which was... Obviously, it was a bit of a shock, a bit of a disappointment, but it was one of those ones where you just have to get on with it. So it's just one of the ones where it just moved on. Hold on, I've just seen that. Sorry, 1 second.
No worries.
I've just seen that David. How do I might have muted him then. How do I mute him? Sorry about this, guys.
No worries. No, he's sat in the other room. I've just moved him out, so no worries.
So it's one of the ones that's disappointing. And then I had the option of going to my local non-league club at Welling United at 15 years old. The guy there said, promised me that I'd play first team football at 15, and they'd do a college course. And I was one of the only lads in the college course that they was going to pay to do it. So I thought, we'd be back home, friends and family around me, playing first team football, try the other avenue.
Yeah.
So I signed for Welling at 15.
So that's what I was going to bring up. So as you hit your 15s and going on into 18, 22, at what point did you think that the professional football route was over? Did you ever get to that stage of thinking this isn't going to work out? Because you spent quite a lot of your early career in National League, non-league. Did there come a point?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. When I was at Welling, at first it was going great. I was in the first team squad. They was in the conference, and then they got relegated. But I was in the first team squads. I was playing at home for the first team. Away from home, he'd never play me because I'm again my size. And I started to get a bit frustrated with being in and out the side. I ended up under falling off the wagon a little bit when it comes to, I started to go out with my friends. Started to get a bit disillusioned, started to go and play for my mate's Sunday team on a Sunday. All those kind of things that, looking back now, I shouldn't have been doing, but it was just purely down to frustration and not getting opportunities. So then at the end, they said that if I keep playing for my friend's Sunday team, then they're going to have to release me from my contract. And to be honest, I didn't listen. I wasn't bothered because I wasn't playing every week. I was just getting a bit frustrated. So they released me. They got rid of me because I kept playing for my friend's Sunday team. So then that was when I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm 18, 19 years old now, starting to develop physically a bit strong. I still wasn't ready for men's football week in, week out, looking back. I wasn't pushed hard enough training. I look at these boys now at the B team, what they're getting pushed and how they're training. I wish that I had that. I really wish that I had coaches that pushed me as much as what me and Neil pushed the boys. I wish I had coaching like 18, 19 years old, because you don't know where you could have gone. You don't know what you could have learned. Never really felt like I had any proper coaching, to be honest. And some of my ex-coaches might listen to this and feel a bit disappointed, but it wasn't. It was just down to the fact that I don't feel like I ever went through technical sessions really. Going up, it was all about the result, and it wasn't really a lot of football played. It was about getting it forward, second balls, back into the box, set pieces, and so forth. Yeah, you learn different aspects in that part of it, but as a player and learning how to play me in my specific role, what suited my game is what we look now. We look at these B team boys and we look at how can we get the best out of these players, whereas back then it was, this is my shape, you fit into this or you don't play kind of thing. So, yeah, looking back, obviously a little bit disappointed with how it went at Welling. I ended up going down to Ashford Town.
What sort of level were they at the time when you dropped in?
It was Dr. Martin's Easton. So it was I don't know what level it was. It was really, really far down the pecking order. Again, playing this, just wanted to play regularly. I was doing that. And just going to the gym in the days. So I was 18, 19. It was getting to the stage there where I was thinking, right, I've got to start either in a full-time job or kicking on. I was playing there, but it wasn't great. I wasn't doing great. The team wasn't great. It was okay, but it was one of the ones where I started to think that it's probably not going to happen. We played pre-season friendlies against the Charltons and stuff, and I'd always do well. I think I'm not that far off. But it's just someone just taking a chance. Nothing really happened. Second season at Ashford, again, playing but not really taking it too seriously. I started to feel that my dream was going and it wasn't going to happen. Again, started going out on Fridays, going out on Saturdays. And we lost one game on a Saturday. And one of the players told the manager that I'd been out on the Friday. I wasn't drinking, but I just went out. I was out, I drove. He pulled me on the Tuesday and said, right, I'm putting you on the bench today. And I was like, why? Well, one of the players told me he was out Saturday. I was like, on Friday night, I wasn't out, but I was out. I wasn't drinking. Just anyway, so we had a bit of a night falling out. I ended up thinking, well, it was an hour and a half to get down to Ashford Town in Kent to sit on a bench on a cold February night. This is not for me. So I just said, let's call it a day. So I ended up quitting football for a while. I ended up just not playing at all. If I go back prior to signing for Ashford Town, I was working nights on the Underground because I had to get some money when I left Welling United. So I carried on working nights on the Underground whilst playing for Ashford Town. So I said to the guy, the Ashford Town manager, I'm not coming down here on a Tuesday night to then go straight to work back in London on the Underground to sit on the bench. So that's why I ended up leaving my role at Ashford Town. So I quit, just worked full-time nights on the Underground for a couple of months. And then I got a phone call out of the blue from an ex-teammate at Ashford who had left as well and said, look, Colchester's manager lived down his road. Not Colchester, sorry. Carl Shorten's manager lived down his road and they were desperate for players. They had no budget, but it was League One. It was one league or two leagues above. Breaking news. There was one or two leagues above what Ashford were, but they was desperate for players. Would I be interested in going down there? So I thought, Joe, well, why not? Just go. It was in the Conference South. So I thought, yeah, go and play for Carl Shorten. Went down there, changed positions for me, moved me out to right midfield because they didn't have a player in that position. So I ended up playing right midfield and then started to do really well out there. I always played centrally as a lad. Physicality was probably an issue for me playing centrally, but I always was decent on the ball and I had a good delivery. So playing outright probably suited me whilst I was a little bit young and couldn't physically compete week in, week out. Yeah. So I went to right midfield, ended up staying at the end of the season, doing okay. And then the next year, I had a full year there and I scored, I don't know, 12, 14, 15, I don't know, 15 goals or maybe or something in that season. And that's when Dagenham and Redbridge come in for me, and that's when they offered me a full-time playing contract whilst I was in the conference. This was about 22 now. So it was one of the ones where they offered me a full-time playing role, but it was on about 30% of the money that I was on with my underground and my playing for Charlton combined. So I had to take a 70% pay cut to go and play and follow my dream to be a full-time professional footballer.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
I was going to speak in cliches and stuff, but was this kind of like last chance saloon for you? You think in 22?
Yeah, I was 22. I was thinking this is not. I regret it if I don't. And listen, I was lucky enough that I had a mum and dad that was like, listen, we're not going to charge you any home rent. I still lived at home at the time. I had no kids. If I had a mortgage and kids, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Simple as that. I wouldn't have been able to afford to. But it was at that time where I was like, well, I've got nothing now. If I don't do it now, I'll probably look back and regret it. So I took the 70% pay cut to basically follow. It is a cliche to follow your dream.
Yeah.
Decision I ever made, and obviously that come from the support of my mum and dad, and it's lucky that I had that. First year was really a bit of a disaster, to be honest, because I've used to part-time football going into full-time football. I just picked up injury after injury where my body just couldn't cope with the demands of training every day. I didn't really start getting a run of games until January, February time, and then I finished it. I ended up playing every week and playing that season. I think we finished mid-table in the conference. The next season was where it really come when I played every game and we won the conference and got promoted to the Football League. So that was a really big step. And that was at 24 years old, got promoted into the Football League, and that's when I finally got my Football League debut at 24 years old.
How do you feel about all of that? Obviously, that was the first time in Dagenham's history they'd been there as well, and I can imagine the sense of pride and just that you finally kind of made it, if you like, and got up to the level you'd always wanted to do.
It was one of the ones, especially the team at Dagenham and the style of football that we played. It was probably the closest thing to the crazy game that you could probably have in football teams. You know, we was a gang. We was a gang of absolute characters and clowns, and just it was all in it. There was no one pulling in any opposite directions. We was all in it together. Still got a group chat now with all the lads, and this is going on 15 years ago. You know, so. It shows that the team spirit. We all had nothing. We all paid peanuts, but we all had one thing in mind and one common goal, and that was to get promoted. There was teams in Oxford was in that league at the time, and their budget was through the roof. They had players on thousands of pounds back then, and we won the league with 6 games to go, just for pure character and the attitude that we had and the team spirit. Because player for player, they were better than us without a doubt, but we was just together. We had a way of playing. It wasn't pretty for everyone, but it suited us and what we had. And we all stuck to it. And under John Steele, we absolutely breezed the league. So, yeah, that was the real massive, for me, finally, to get an opportunity to play in a football league. It was massive. And at 19, 20, I'd have snapped your hands off to play one football league game. So to get the opportunity... it was for me, that is my best medal that I've got, is that conference winning medal, because it actually enabled me to follow the dreams of playing Football League.
Yeah, well, the good times kept rolling for you when you go in with your second season with Dagenham in League Two and narrowly missed out on the playoff positions at the point. Did you get to a stage though with Dagenham where you thought you had gone as far as you could with them and you wanted to take the next step in that season after? Or was it a case of just stars aligned almost and
it's one of the ones where we got promoted. I signed a 2-year deal with Dagenham. 2 years, and I thought, right, we'll see how this goes, because I'm not getting any younger. And I was 24 when I made it in the first year. And the first year we struggled. We only stayed up second to last game. I think we all needed to adapt a little bit into Football League. The way that we played in the conference, we couldn't play as direct because there was other teams that were better at dealing with it than us. Picked up an injury during that season, so I was a bit in and out. So we've got into my final year of my contract where I was 24, 25 now. I just, before the season started, I was like, Sam, right, you've done everything John Steele's asked of you. Every time you got it, you've went outside and crossed. won second balls, you've hooked it on, you've done this and that. It was one of them times. It was like a sliding doors moment. I go, right, it's up to you now. Destiny's in your hands. I'm going to take it a little bit, and I'm going to play with a little bit of freedom. I'm going to play with how I know I can play and do things that I know I can do. So I started coming inside. I started drifting inside, coming across the pitch, coming in, shooting with my left, 1-2s off the strikers, where it wasn't really seen to do at Dagenham. But I took it into my hands, and I knew full well if I was doing it and it weren't coming off, I was going to get a rollicking, or worse, I was going to get subbed off or left out of the team. I thought with this last season, if I don't do it now, I'm always just going to be a middle of the road League Two player that earns 400 or 500 quid a week. That's never going to get me anywhere. So I've just thought, Joe, it is worth a gamble now. You've established yourself in this team enough to earn the right. And luckily, I started off on fire that season. I think I scored 2 on the first game of the season. I think I scored 5 in the first 6 games, which enabled me then to have that freedom. The gaffer, I knew he couldn't leave me. I couldn't leave me out, and the fact that I was roaming and doing things slightly differently, but was paying off. The gaffer then had the trust in me to do it, which then was a real catalyst for the season. We signed Matty Ritchie on one wing. There's Matty Ritchie, who was obviously at Newcastle now on one wing. He was on loan from Portsmouth. You had myself on the other wing that was both changing flanks, coming inside now, shooting, crossing, different types of play, switch play and stuff. And it was something that really worked. I think I got 14 goals that season and Matty got 12. And that was the season that I was out of contract. And obviously now, because I was over for 24 years old, I was unable to go on a free transfer.
Yeah.
For me, during that season, John threatened to sell me in January because obviously I wasn't signing a new contract. But because we was in the playoff spots, I think he just wanted to keep me for the remainder of the season. He threatened, obviously, as managers do, to not play you, if I don't sign a deal, which is what a lot of managers do when players are out of contract. But I stood to I was the same guy that was at the beginning of the season. I'm going to do it my way. I've got this narrow-mindedness to try and get to where I need to get to. Listen, if you want to not play me, I called his bluff. I said, if you don't want to not play me, don't play me. But I feel that it would be a detriment to the side. And I feel like, and I said to him, I feel like I've probably done enough anyway by Christmas to get something in the season, free transfer if you don't play me, because I think everyone will know why you're not playing me. So I called his bluff a little bit, and obviously he realised that he didn't end up leaving me out. They made me a contract offer, but the contract offer was just, it wasn't even an offer that would make you even think about it. I said, John, like, you've got, if you want me to stay, which I'm happy to think about staying, but you need to make me a contract offer that made you think about it. And to be honest, and it's not John's fault, it's not the club. The club just didn't have the funds and the resources to do that, which in a way was good because I had such a bond with the club at the time and an affiliation with the club. If they would have made me a decent offer, I probably would have stayed. And that probably wouldn't have been for the best of my long-term football career, because it was one of the ones where it would have been easier and convenient. And obviously I enjoyed it there and was playing good football. But in a way, it was lucky that they didn't have the funds for me, because I probably would have ended up staying. So at the end of the season, like I say, free transfer, 14 goals, missing out on the playoffs in the last game of the season. And a few offers from League One. Orient, Wickham. I met with Orient, Wickham and Brentford. All offered me 3-year deals, and obviously after speaking with Brentford numerous times, I thought that would be the best option for myself, and that's where I went and signed for Brentford.
Absolutely. So the rest is history. So you obviously joined with 2 other teammates at the time in that season, all on free transfers. Did that kind of help the settling in period at Brentford, like coming into a club where you've got 2 former teammates with you?
Well, obviously I signed first, and at the time, obviously Strebs and Fozzie were out of contract as well. And this is one of the reasons why I did sign for Brentford, because Andy Scott showed me a dossier of 18 games that I'd played and this and that, and now they see me playing here and now they see me playing there, and asked me what fullback they wanted me to sign because it would suit my game. So I said, well, Fozzie done well for me at Brentford, at Dagenham, so he knows my game. They ended up signing Fozzie, and obviously I spoke to him about Strebs and said how good of a player he was, so they brought him in as well. Yeah, it's nice to know faces, but I already knew Sammy Wood and Charlie McDonald when I was signing anyway. Mm-hmm. So it was handy to have players that you knew, but it was a welcoming bunch, and I played against them a couple of times that season, so they knew me and I knew them, and it was fine to settle in.
Yeah, it would be. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It was quite a slow start to your Brentford career. Obviously, the 9-10 season you played infrequently, and then that 10-11 season you've mentioned before about the difficulties you faced. Would you mind talking about that? And was there a point where you think you're potentially moving on from the Bees? And
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. I see it doesn't matter of 18 games that Andy Scott showed me. I felt that this guy was really going to play to my strengths and help me. He said he thought about me playing in the hole, maybe off the left, coming inside, all this kind of stuff that I wanted to do. I didn't want to just be a right winger anymore because I felt that for me to play higher, I need to be coming inside, linking up play. I've never been quick, so I didn't want to be going outside on wingers and trying to get out fullbacks that are quicker than me. It was going to be tough, so I needed to change my game to play higher. I felt, and he mentioned that, which for me was great. I signed for Brentford in the first 6 games. He played me right midfield in the 4-4-2. So it was completely different to what he sold me. I played okay. I didn't feel I was playing too poorly. We started off quite well. We lost to Charlton away. And then, to be honest, I got completely binned off. That season, I counted, there was 10 players that played right midfield that season. With loans and players playing out of position, playing in right midfield in front of me. So it was, I felt, to be honest, and I know Andy spoke about this now, and to fair play to him, he's held his hands up and said that if he had the chance again, he probably would have done it differently. He would have looked to have played me differently and so forth, which is nice, and I appreciate it. Saying it's just a shame that it didn't happen then, because I was on a real question of a wave, and at 24, 25, playing in League One, playing to my potential, I felt I could have probably kicked on again, but obviously it wasn't meant to be. And then obviously it started to change really when I really started to play well and consistently. Was when Nicky Forster took over, and he took over to the end of the season. And I think I pretty much played every game. Played me more centrally, and I started to show performances that I felt like I could have done earlier on.
yeah, how was that transition from obviously having your teammate go into the coaching role? Was it business as usual as a player, or just different?
Well, me and him used to share the car school, so he was in my car school. So that had to stop immediately. So we had to stop driving in together and so forth and stuff like that. But no, it was like, I think the good thing of players like to play, and obviously I was playing, which is obviously helps. But it was just felt that it wasn't so direct. Played through the thirds a little bit more. Obviously Mark Wolverton come in and was helping Nicky Forster at the time, and Wolves was doing obviously good stuff for us and helping us, and we played some good football and got some good results. Unfortunately, we lost the final at the JPT final against Carlisle. I had from memories of Fozzie being the gaffer. Obviously, he only got it to the end of the season and then moved on. But no, so when you play, players always enjoy playing, and obviously I was enjoying it because I was playing.
I could say it's around this point. Obviously, Benham came into the club, and then obviously the season after, you mentioned Rosler came in and stepped in. Did you feel there was a change around the corner of Brentford, and it was building slowly towards something, or was it just
I think that when Rosler come in, that's when Brentford started to change as a football club. To be honest, even the discipline, the professionalism, the intensity of training, all those kind of aspects went up a level. He was an intense guy, really intense guy, but I liked him. He set it moving really for Brentford to start changing to what they are now. And we was unlucky not to get promoted under him in the final. But to be honest, if you probably look back now, so I look back at that, and I think that final game against Yeovil, if we worried a bit more about us instead of them, I think we would have gone up. I think that it was his attention to detail sometimes had so much attention to detail regarding the other team. If if we would have played them 10 times, I think we would have won 9 times if we'd have just gone out and played them, because I felt that we had better players and a better squad. We obviously spent the whole week talking about them and what they're going to do. Maybe we didn't look to what actually we're going to do. And obviously going 2-0 down early on was a tough mountain to climb, and we got it back to 2-1, but just didn't quite have enough.
Yeah, it's one of them that. Do you think it would have been a bit premature though if you had gone up that season, that second season or promotion season in the end eventually gave the club the foundations to build from?
Oh yeah, you always look at it and you go, well, could it have been too early? Potentially, yes. For me, it probably would have been because I was out of contract that season. And the fact that we didn't go up, I ended up nicking another 2 years contract. So in the long run, it probably worked out well for myself selfishly. But it was, yeah, potentially you look at that and to go up automatically shows that we were stronger. The change of manager during the season brought us together again, and then Wolves come over, and he was a complete opposite to Rosa, where it come to he would only worry about us and what we could do, which was quite refreshing. Mm-hmm. But because we had Rosler, we still had early on in the season, we still had the foundations of being set up very, very rigid and defensively. So we still had our defensive qualities, but then we had a bit more freedom in the final third with Wolves. So it was actually quite a nice mixture in that first season.
Definitely. And was it about this sort of time, the analytics side? As the other analyst myself, did the analysis side come with Warburton, or is it already at the club? And like, how throughout your career has it changed and like moved through?
It started to get mentioned more and more, particularly seeing the Warburton side of it. But obviously Matthew Benham was there from when I was there, so it just started coming more and more. Obviously the stories and of why Warburton left and so forth, there's different rumours and bits and bobs, which I don't really know the truth myself, to be honest. But you started to hear about it more and more, and then people started to talk about Moneyball and all that stuff, which is not really true. There's analytics into signings, and there's analytics into patterns of play and how you play and expected goals and stuff, but it's all a strategy. I think that's why Brentford are so strong at the moment, because they have a strategy, they have a clear pathway, they have a clear plan. They don't need that plan because results can change for numerous reasons, whether it's a refereeing decision, an injury, or just a silly mistake or whatnot. As long as you keep doing the right things over and over again, and the performances are there, the results will be there eventually. So that's why Brentford don't just sack their managers if they go for a run of results that are not great. That's why Brentford don't rip up the game plan after 3 or 4 games if they don't win, because they know that what they do percentage wise works, and you have to be brave to do that. You have to be brave to stick to your guns, and sometimes even if it's not going right, to believe what you believe in, and to keep carrying that job forward. And that's something that I admire about what we do at Brentford, and I know a lot of other clubs do, because we have got the nerve to keep going when other people wouldn't.
Absolutely. How, as a player, does a coach sell it to you though? If a coach comes to you and says, "Oh, your analytics or your stats aren't looking good, or the video here," how as a player do you like buy into that sort of philosophy? Is it from the club down, or is it from the manager themselves?
Listen, the eye don't lie. Let's get it straight. Yeah, we use analytics, we use all the video stuff, the GPSs, we use everything, but the eye doesn't lie. If it was just a case of analytics and the analysis and all that kind of stuff, then we'd be out of a job. It's still a people-based game. You still got to play on people's emotions. You still got to treat people as human beings. So yeah, there's a place for it in the game, but it will never override the game and override the fact that you need human relationships to get the best out of players. So we use it to our advantage, but we don't just rely on it.
Absolutely. I was going to just bring you back to your earlier point about the club willing to stick by the guns. Obviously, Dagenham era got off to a bit of a poor start before the club did eventually make the change. As a player, can you sense when something's coming with a coach not necessarily the right fit for the club? There's obviously all the stories and the rumours that came out afterwards behind Dagenham's time. But as a player, I'd love to hear your perspective on that change of guard.
Yeah, it's just obviously he come in with a pedigree and he come to English football, and it was just one of the ones where we knew how competitive championship training was, and games were, and we just, as a group, we just felt like he wasn't fit enough, he wasn't getting pushed enough, particularly under, like, let's say, Warburton and Rosser era. We didn't feel like we was doing pre-season tour and we was asking to run, and I just felt that that was a bit of a worry for us, because players shouldn't be asking managers to run in pre-season. I'm not saying it's just mindless running, but you can do it with footballs, or you can do it however you want to do it. Everyone's got their own methods. But yeah, the results weren't great. We wasn't fit. We didn't really have a clear passage of play. We didn't really have structure. And the results weren't great. And then obviously you look at the results, and then you start speaking to people, and the club obviously, let's say, never really pushed a button without giving the manager a real opportunity. But to be honest, I don't ever like to see anyone get the sack, but I just don't think it was a right fit for the club and where we wanted to go. And consequently, he moved on pretty soon.
Definitely. This kind of coincides towards, obviously, the back end of your career, where you went out to Wycombe and Colchester respectively, especially towards the back end. Obviously, the Wembley heartache will be much documented with Wycombe. Again, as a player, that was the third or fourth time, was it, in Wembley? And
third, yeah.
Does that sort of stuff, as a player, you look back on, obviously, we've heard it from a few players and spoke about Wembley's the dream. Is it a bit disappointed you never got it over the line at some points at Wembley?
Yeah, obviously I played there 3 times and never won, which is not ideal. It's one of the ones, particularly the Wycombe one, was a real gutter, because went there on loan to gain fitness, because I just had a knee injury, so I went to Wycombe on loan just to get fit and play to the end of the season. Started to play some really good football, felt like I'd got over my injury, and then to get that 10 seconds into a game, I felt like what had I done in the past life, I felt like it was a real gutter, and I questioned whether I wanted to continue playing, just because, not just physically, but just mentally, it is a tough job to keep getting yourself up, keep getting yourself fit, keep going through pain barriers, keep pushing your body, and your family members and people closest around you through it as well. So there was a question mark whether I wanted to continue playing, because it didn't feel fair. I remember getting into the changing room after the game and bawling my eyes out, because it was just like, why again? Which was frustrating. So I've ended up going on loan, trying to kickstart my career again, get over the injury, and then end up coming back to Brentford injured again. So frustrating, very frustrating. And I ended up being out for 6 months with that. It was almost a calf rupture. It was a 12 centimetre tear in my calf that was a grade 2, it was nearly a grade 3. So yeah, it was something that took a long time to get over. And then something, to be honest, I pretty much carried for the remainder of my career.
Was it this sort of the time that you started to transition post-football, looking into the business ventures that you later looked at, coaching badges?
Yeah, when I say started doing my coaching, but when I got injured during my knee was my first time when I started going, right, this is a serious injury. I was out for 10 months. You've dealt with life before football, right? How are you going to deal with life after football? So it really gave me an insight into the value of a pound note, for one. Value of what people do for work to earn a living. You don't appreciate that sometimes when you're in that football bubble. I work with lads that worked at nights and then got home and had an hour, 2 hours sleep, and then done a day with the job as well. I work with those kind of people. So you look at that and you go, wow, that is the real world, That's what thousands and thousands of people do day in, day out. So I never took it for what I did for granted, ever. That's probably where I did get the strength of character to keep going again through the times of injury, through the times of being really cast aside under Andy Scott when I wasn't playing and wasn't valued. I still look back at that and going, well, this is a lot better than what I was doing. Just keep digging in, keep working hard, good things will come. So that's where I probably got that mindset, and still to this day. But yeah, it's one of the ones where you've just got to just keep going, and keep moving forward, because you know that it's a short career in the long run. And that's why I was looking at the coaching badges. I was looking at different business ventures and bits and bobs, and I got into a bit of property, got into a few different bits. I got into a barber shop, got into a bit of clothing company and bits and bobs like that, just because I was always wanting to be, and I was in a mindset, and a quote that always stuck with me, and I always speak to the lads about it as well: just be finished with football before football's finished with you, because it's got a horrible part of football where when football's finished with you, it don't matter who you are, what you've done, you're done, and it's one of them ones where it don't matter if you've won the Premier League or you've not won a single game. If you're injured or your time's up or no one wants to sign you, your phone stops ringing. Stop doing interviews, you stop doing this, you stop doing that, because you're yesterday's news and they're looking for the next one. So football owes you nothing. So just remember that when you come to the end of your career, because it can bring you a great life, but then when it's finished with you, it is finished with you. So make sure you're on the front foot and you know what you're going to do after football, because it is a long time retired and there's a long time after kicking a football around with your mates every day.
So it's brilliant. Lovely advice. And so I think as we could go to close it up and stuff, I'm just going to chat about the B team a little bit. I'd love to get your feeling. You've mentioned it there about how you took ownership of your own game at Dagenham towards the end, about cutting in to get the goals to potentially get yourself a move. You spoke about obviously being an August baby, which then physically put you behind most people, especially those that were a year older from the September, October days. How do you manage that as a coach now? Obviously, you've experienced that as a player. What sort of things would you use to manage it?
Well, it's obviously because I've just recently retired. I can still, for one, help do demos as well, demonstrations of what you ask for, which I think you always get a good response from the lads. I've never asked the lads to do anything that I was never prepared to do. I think that's important. We pushed them hard. I'm not going to lie, we worked them really hard. But you would never get any of these youngsters' true potential. And I wish I got pushed to this until they reach their optimum fitness levels. So we work them hard in fitness. If they get an opportunity with the first team, what they might lack in experience and what they might lack technically or tactically, we're not so much tactically, but more technically. They will never lack in physicality or fitness levels, because that's anyone can run around, anyone can get fit. So we make sure they're that for starters, and then once you're fit, you make better decisions consistently. And then we look at different managers of the game. We've all got their individual development plans, which we do a couple of sessions a week where it's just with them or similar players in their positions to work on aspects of their game that we feel that they can improve on. And then we obviously give them the tactical blocks of 4-3-3, 3-4-3s, high press, mid press, low block, different aspects of games. And we've got a big array of fixtures that we play. We play academies, but then we play conference teams. So they're getting exposed to different elements of football as well, because these lads potentially, when they go on loan, they're probably going to go on loan to League Two or National League. So they've got to get used to that style of football as well.
Definitely. So if a player, for instance, was doing what you did back in the day of cutting in and ignoring your instructions and keep cutting in to get the goal scoring opportunities, how as a coach do you deal with that sort of situation?
Well, if he's going against what we've asked for, it's working, then I will let him go and carry on. Mm-hmm. Of course, you've got to give freedom. We give players structure. Give them advice, we give them our principles of how we play. But also we understand that football's not black and white and it's not played in a tactics board. Things change. So if they see something and they feel that they can do it, go for it. Just make sure that if it doesn't work, your reactions are good, you get back into shape, you try and win the ball back immediately, you're on the front foot on a high press. I'd never have a go at lads for trying something. I'd only ever go at lads if they didn't react well, if it didn't work. That's my issue. That's all we have at our club is listen, try stuff if you want to try it. If it doesn't work, make sure you're at well and go and get the ball back. Hopefully now that the tactics that we're giving the lads now are probably a little bit better than just go outside and cross and win free kicks and win corners, because obviously that's what I was getting given. So that's why I felt to myself, maybe I should try something differently. But these lads now are getting, I know it probably sounds biased, but they're getting good coaching. They're getting good patterns of play. They're getting opportunities to showcase their skills. They're getting, obviously, balls received in the half turn. They're getting, if you're a winger, you're getting it one-on-one to run at your fullbacks. If you're a 9, you're getting it either into feet for a bit of link play, or you're getting balls in behind where you can some deep runs. The 8s are getting rotations. They're getting balls in the pockets, or sometimes like the deep runs that we mentioned. They're getting lots of elements to showcase their skills. So it's a bit different to the football that I played when I actually had to do it to actually try and, let's say, make a living. These boys are getting lots of tools at their disposal, and to be fair, they're grasping it and they're working their so hard every single day in training and on match days, and they've been a credit to themselves.
Do you feel the B team system then is potentially more preparing them for that eventual step into first team football if they make it than the academy system?
100%. I say, I'm not saying it'll work for everyone. Bigger clubs maybe need the academy where you've got 3 or 4 teams. But for us, in our catchment area, the B team works for us. Pictures that we play, superb. Like I say, we're exposing these boys to all different elements of football. And very rarely are you going to go from our B team into your first team and then play championship football and happy ever after. I think that's only happened once with Chris Mepham. So majority of times you're going to have to go out on loan, and when you go out on loan, you've got to go and impress. So if you give them an array of fixtures that give them the best foundations for that, then the better. So, for instance, we had a lad coming from a bigger club this season, centre half, nick the ball in the front for fun, can play through the lines, very good football player. Excuse me. But struggle physically in the air, and he's 6'3". So we've had to work on a lot of heading. We've had to work on playing National League teams where they do hit the ball long, where you have to win first contacts, where you have to win challenges in the box, and he's come on leaps and bounds. So if he didn't have those fixtures, he would never have been exposed to that kind of football, and then he would have went on loan and probably struggled. So now we feel he's more adept to go out on loan and impress and come back and show everyone how good he is. So that's just one example of playing a different array of football and playing not just tippy-tappy under-23s football, which sometimes it can be.
Yeah, definitely. Do you liaise with a lot of players when they're out on loan? So, for instance, would you keep them up with their development plan, or do you just let them play and to the discretion of the club they're at?
Sorry, say that again?
Do you keep in contact with the players while they're out on loan, and will you keep them on path with their development plan, or is it a case of let them be with the club they're at?
No, of course, we still have contact. We're mindful of how many minutes they're playing, obviously what formation they're playing in, how they're performing, the results, because they're our player, and we've got obviously keen interest in what they do. Obviously, we don't phone out their manager and say, pick him. He's got to go and earn the right. But, yeah, of course, he's our player. We're interested in what he goes on. We speak to him and any advice we can give them. We're obviously doing that. And it's definitely not out of sight, out of mind. We've still got a very, very beady eye over them and what they're doing, and hopefully, obviously, impressive.
So to close up this last little bit before we go into the quick-fire questions we got, do you think being a player makes you a better coach?
Gives you more empathy with the players. You know how they feel. You've done it. You understand the emotion of being injured. You understand the emotion of being left out. You understand the emotion of doing the shape session and being in the team that's not starting and how that affects your training. So for me, if we're doing 11v11 shape session and we're working on the boys that are starting, if the team that have won the ball get it, I don't just blow the whistle. I let them have the ball. I let them play a little bit, because otherwise it's just so disheartening. Things like that probably you don't, as a coach, you probably just look at the team and how's that structure. But on the bigger scale of things, you've got to think about the human beings. Like I said about the analytics and what we do at Brentford, there is a bit of analytics used, and we do use that and that data because we've got a big, vast array of data, and why wouldn't you? But also we understand that people are human beings.
I think that's a big thing with analysis, and people miss that. It's a tool to assist. It's
exactly.
Not the be all and end all.
No, exactly that. And that's why, for me, being a player, yeah, of course, it helps as well. It helps get the buy-in from me. If you can do a demo and show the boys what to do, instantly you got the buy-in, you know. I walked into the B team as a coach, never coached before 18 months ago, but I played and I'd done what they'd done. I wore the Brentford shirt for 200 appearances, so they understand that I know what it feels like to go on their journey, so I just get that instant buy-in. It's not everything. Obviously, I've still got to be tactically aware. And I understand coaches that haven't played do it a little bit of a longer route. I get that, and I understand that. And don't say not every coach has to play at the highest level. But I think you definitely have to have played at some level just to have the empathy of how it feels to actually play football.
Definitely right. Just to close it out, then we'll go for a few quick fire questions we got. Who's the best teammate you've played under, as in a friends wise, and also technically, that you've played with or against?
I'd rather always say who I've played with rather than actually, because we've played against Chelsea's and Spurs and stuff like that. But technically, on the ball, it would have to be Alex Pritchard. But then it changed when I played with Abir Eze at Wickham. This lad's, he could take the ball. He could beat a defender and take the ball without even touching the ball, if that makes sense. He would just let it go, shift from one side of his body to the other, drop a shoulder, drop a hip. I don't know what he did, but he would just leave people for dead. So I'd say Eze, for me, technically one of the most gifted players that I've played with. Alex Pritchard being a very close second. And a best mate that I played with, there's probably too many to mention.
Don't want to get you in trouble.
But I see I lived with Jonathan Douglas for a while. See, we still get on. See, you've got Scotty Barron, Harley Dean, Liam Richwell, those kind of boys that I still speak with and get on really well. And we played with each other for a number of years. But yeah, I wouldn't single out anyone really, because I say there's a lot of them guys that are still really good friends. But yeah, that question will get me in trouble. That.
What's your favourite goal you ever scored in your career?
My favourite goal I ever scored in my career. I know a lot of people mention the free kick that I fell over. That's probably the one that's most talked about. So that would be up there in my top three. I'd say I scored an overhead kick for Dagenham against Southend. That was a special one, a left-footed overhead kick. And then I enjoyed the Wickham goal that I scored just inside the half against Barnet. I nutmegged the guy and shot from about 45 yards, which I enjoyed as well. I'd say those three, just because the different array of goals as well.
Was the free kick fall over planned or just slipped?
Listen, I was having a stinker that game. I wouldn't be messing about falling over the floor. It was just simple. If you're thinking about taking a free kick, and as you go to set off on your free kick, being a right footer, you lift your right foot up and you go to plant your right foot down to then start the run up. As I've done that, my inside of my right boot stud got caught in my left boot. So then when went to lift my left boot up, obviously our stud was weighing it down, so that's why I just fell over onto my knees. I've never done it before, and I've never done it since. I just don't know how I've done it. I've never done it in training. I've never done it ever before in my life, and I don't know why that happened. But I'm just so grateful that I managed to pick myself up and compose myself and put it away afterwards. Otherwise, I probably would have got subbed.
Yeah. Was there a sweeter feeling as a fan? Because you were getting pelters from the Swindon fans at the time behind the goal. So then go and score like in that fashion, there must be no better feeling as a player.
I enjoyed it when the opposition fans got on to me anyway. It was a little bit of a pantomime villain kind of side of it, which I really enjoyed, and hopefully they enjoyed as well, because obviously for me it was never ever personal. It was just a bit of banter and a bit of fun, and obviously a lot of those guys come on a Saturday to give other players stick, which I took it always with a pinch of salt. It was probably what I was used to, probably because sometimes the young fans would get onto me as well. But no, it was good. It was, like I say, it was just a bit of fun, and they was giving me a lot of stick, and it was a nice way just to give them a little celebration in front of the fans as well and pretend to fall over it. But no, it was all, like I say, all in good jest. And it's just, for me, it's part of football that's really missed at the moment with the fans not being in the grounds.
Yeah, it's one of them. Is you can definitely see the intensity, especially as drops in certain games where you just think a few thousand fans here and there, and just bring that atmosphere back and just bring a bit of life into some games. Especially this season in the Championship, there's been some that have been not difficult watches, but just lacking the intensity side. So we've got a few more just to finish off. We'll go. What's you feel that's been your best game performance-wise in your career?
I haven't got a clue, to be honest. I really haven't got a clue. It's one of the ones where, as silly as you play well, and then it's the next one. It's as simple as that. You're on to the next one. You're on to the next one. Some of the games that I played the best in, I've lost. So for me, they don't class as playing well, really. If you lose, as silly as it sounds, so I wouldn't really be able to pick out a game. There's never been a game where you've played the perfect game. There's always things that you can improve. And there's always times you've gave the ball away or made wrong decisions or let runners go. So yeah, I don't think there's such thing as a perfect game or your best game. There's been your best results where you've won games and stuff, but sometimes that comes in an array of ways. If you've won games when you haven't deserved to, or if you've won games by completely outplaying teams. But yeah, I think it's so difficult to say your best game because I don't think I had one.
What's your strangest fan experience you've had?
There's some weird ones where you just. I've been in Vegas and sat on the table, and a Brentford fan's been on the table asking me if I'm Sam Saunders and stuff like that. Just crazy things where you just think of like I say, there's so many different football fans and Brentford fans and so forth all over the world. That was quite a surreal one, probably because I was still hungover from the night before, but. It was probably something like that where you just really wouldn't expect to see a Brentford fan or get recognised, and you do.
And I can't go out the entire podcast without asking about the infamous song. What's your thoughts on it, and how do we feel about it?
Yeah, it's a song, let's be honest. It's a good bit of fun, and when the pubs are open and you've ever been in the pubs or whatever, or after when we got promoted and we went to Nelson and there was all singing and stuff, it's a good bit of banter. My partner has a bit of a laugh, and my little 3-year-old sings a child-friendly version of it, because obviously she understands it now, so she sings a song, but she obviously changes it to I want to be your wife rather than that other line. So, which is cute from her and that. But no, it's all in good fun. And like I say, that's what the majority of football's about. It is the fans, and it's the relationship with the players and the fans, and how and in these times more than ever, you realise the importance of football and how it brings the community together and how it gives the community, particularly on a 3 o'clock on a Saturday, something to do and something to look forward to for your working week. And it's just another one of those that brings the fans and the players closer together. So I'm all for things like that, and I think it's a great song, and it's just the laughter and the smiles it brings on people's faces. It's fantastic.
Honestly, I can't thank you enough. This has been a brilliant podcast, just shy of an hour now, so I'll let you go about the rest of your day. But thank you so much and for joining us this week on the pod, and great to have you on. Thank you for all those that are listening, subscribe and follow. We'll be back to usual next week, probably with another topic or something, but all the likes, subscribes and follows do massive things to the account, so we much do appreciate it. Thank you, and we're on to the next one.